Hey everybody, welcome back to the season finale of Jetlag. This will conclude our pandemic time capsule season, all about how this crazy once-in-a-lifetime pandemic is affecting all the different industries that are related to travel. Today we have a really interesting one. Everybody's heard of people who are kind of travel gurus or points hackers, and they just seem to know how to take advantage of the travel infrastructure in a way to constantly get all these benefits. It sounds really cool. It's like they know the secret sauce into extracting the most out of these different programs and benefits and stuff. And today we are joined by one of them. His name is Emmanuel Dieber, and he runs flighthacks.com.au. And you could very quickly gather when you go to his site that he travels a lot. In fact, he says 332,533 kilometers, equivalent to going around the globe 8.5 times now. But this is all pre-pandemic. What I want to know and what we want to know is, what does somebody who travels for their job, for their content, what do they do when a pandemic that stops all of that happens? So with no further ado, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. So where are you right now?
I'm in Perth. It's a nice winter's day. Stuck inside. I've been here for, it feels like it's been half a year already.
Right, yeah. It's approaching, right, I guess.
It's almost July. Time is flying.
Right.
What does someone that travels a lot do? Not all too much. I think it's the best side of it is just the money saving aspect, because unlike a lot of influencers, I pay for most of my trips. So just sitting at home working on my sites is probably saved me a lot in travel expenses. So yeah,
really,
I can't get away too.
We're gonna have to dive into that a little bit, because I think the common perception with people who do travel full time is they've found a way to get all of it comped, but you're saying you pay for it, so that's gonna be interesting.
Oh yeah, using my points or cash, so it's always a mix of both. But
right, cool. So I guess let's back up all the way, and this is how we've started every episode in this pandemic series. What was 2018 and 2019 like? Leading up to all of this, what had been happening? What was, 2019 like for you, for example? Like, what were you doing? What did the normal year look like? And what were your projections for 2020?
Yeah, look, I was just super excited for 2020 to start. 2019 was, I think, a pretty good year for airlines and for travel in general. If you look at the growth of aviation and travel, it's just going up and up and up each year. And then, I was in New York over Christmas, and then flying back to Australia New Year's Eve. And there was sort of already these things started with the whole COVID thing, and I kind of brushed it off as yet another health scare that everyone is on about. But yeah, then I was still excited for 2020, and then it all sort of happened in, what was it, early March?
Mm-hmm.
February, early March, they started shutting the borders, and shit got real, I guess, from a lot of people and a lot of industries that are affected by this whole situation. So
yeah, when did you know really that things were going to be serious for the, obviously we were being told from early January that we needed to wash our hands and we needed to use hand sanitizer and stop shaking hands. And that was starting to come into the repertoire from early January. But like you, I mean, I was in New Orleans at the end of January, and I mean, there was no indication that anything was going to really substantially affect life long term, let alone, to the extent that it has. What were your first indications what was that day that you go like, okay, this is serious. The airlines are pretty screwed right now, because I got to say too, on, which I feel like I've thought through every episode of this season, but I haven't said, but it's like, there was that period from like beginning of January to end of February where traveling was just a joy because there were so many less people traveling.
Yeah, everyone was scared, right?
But yeah, so what was that sort of moment that you went, okay, this is serious?
Well, like I'm a germaphobe to begin with, so I usually have my own hand sanitizer and wipes when I
Me
go on a
too.
plane. It's like wipe everything down regardless of COVID or not. So I was like, oh, this is great because now everyone's gonna start behaving like an adult and wash their hands, not leave a mess on on their seat. But yeah, I think the last trip I did was in February. No, no, I think I went to Sydney in March, and that was sort of the end of it, where everyone's kind of paranoid and everyone's sort of like, "Oh, what's going on?" Sanitizing everything, and then I think later in March they just announced and it shut down, and that's when I was like, "Oh, okay, this could be like a temporary thing." I still had high hopes for like a trip I was planning in when was it, April. I was like, yeah, we'll be fine. No one will be flying, so it'll be amazing. I'll just be on my own in first class sipping champagne. It would be great. But that, yeah, that all changed. So I think late March, I was like, okay, April trip's not going to happen. I'll just keep my fingers crossed for June, hopefully.
Had you booked your trip in April already?
Yeah, I had a whole bunch of bookings right up until the end of the year. So
So what has your experience been in terms of getting credits for those trips or refunds, or what have your experiences been in that
yeah,
respect?
as someone that uses miles or points a lot, it actually doesn't change your situation because those tickets are extremely flexible anyway, and you can change them or cancel them for a fraction of what it costs to change like a cash ticket. So if you're booking with points, you're always going to get your points back if you cancel, minus a small fee. It could be like $50 or whatever. So in many cases, it actually worked out better for me because airlines started to waive these points
Mm.
cancellation fees that you pay, which is like 50 to $100, depending on the airline and the program that you're using. So, for people that were using points, it wasn't a bad situation because you can, you just change the date or cancel, get your points back. Of course, that depends on the airline. Yes, I'm sure we'll touch on it with Virgin Australia. Um, that was a whole different situation. And then, yeah, for later this year, I do have a few. Uh, I sometimes book tickets with real money, believe it or not. And when I do, it's usually because they're highly discounted or error fares or something like that. So I do have a few first class bookings that I got for later this year, and I will just have to rely on the insurance of my credit card provider to come through and back me up in this situation. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So I guess I've got a question. If you go on the site, which again is flighthacks.com.au, some of the sections in the header are like reviews or deals. And so under reviews, there's flight reviews, lounge reviews, hotel reviews. All of those things went away entirely for at least one point in time. Now, some flights have come back, depends on what country you're in. Some hotels have reopened, but for the most part, we're still not there. What do you do as somebody who runs a site that is full of content where, first of all, you can't go and create new content, and second, I have to imagine the demand for this content will also take a dip because people aren't traveling either. So, what do you
yeah.
do? What is that like?
So in terms of new content, I do have a huge backlog of old content that I do need to create. So this is a perfect time to sit down and work through it. In terms of demand, it is absolutely true that people, are at the moment, or at least in the last few months, the least of their concern is to read first class trip reviews or luxury hotel stays because everyone's like, shit, I might lose my job, I might not be able to pay the rent, all this real life stuff. So I guess looking into travel is the least of their priority. But now that things are sort of starting to open up again, I think the demand for travel is huge, and people in general, I believe, can't wait to get out there. Like there's a lot of news sites are saying, look, people are scared to fly, people are scared to travel. But then the other day, Jetstar sells out 10,000 tickets in less than 4 hours and 70,000 tickets in 5 hours under their sale. So if that doesn't give you a sign of that people are, desperate to get out there, and if people listening don't know Jetstar, it's probably the least favorite airline in Australia. Can we say that?
I don't know. Tiger would be up there too.
I flown it a few times, but I knew it was
budget airline. So
Yeah, I mean, if you know Jetstar's budget, getting onto it, and you're just trying to get to another
It's fine,
city,
yeah.
it's fine, but it's not something you write home about. That's for sure.
No. But I mean, if they can sell that many tickets in such a short
Yeah,
time,
that's crazy.
But a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've changed their cancellation policies. That people are now going. Yeah. There's no risk really in booking a $19 ticket to from Sydney to Melbourne if you know that you can get that $19 back if shit hits the fan again.
Yeah, considering all this bad stuff that's happened, one of the most positive things that's come out of it is all the flexibility travelers are getting with their future plans. So pretty much everyone has a flexible policy, and it's pretty damn good, if I might say.
Well, I have to imagine that the type of people taking advantage of a flight sale like that too are going to be a younger demographic. I'm not sure how much data you have on a site like yours that's often talking about business and first class. Does that attract a slightly older demographic?
My readers are generally between 25 and 35. So
oh, wow.
I would say we're all in a kind of aspirational age where we want to experience luxury, but obviously don't want to or can't afford to pay the full price tag, which a lot of people can't. But there's ways around that by using points and miles and just optimizing. If you know the whole game, it's very easy to travel in luxury for less than economy. So a lot of people will be in my kind of age bracket, and of course there's older people as well. Point hackers, it's got no age limit. Just no, yeah.
Interesting. So I think the travel industry in general, it does have pent up demand, but the cruise lines just a few weeks ago had to push their initial sailing dates back another 3 months. And they're all, trying to figure out how much cash they have on hand, because if you're a cruise line and your ship isn't out sailing, you make $0. So it's probably not quite the same for the airlines, but in a sense for touring companies, for a lot of experiences, right? Because not only with your points can you just get flights and hotels, but you can also book experiences, dinners, all sorts of things once you actually arrive at your destination. A lot of those companies haven't figured out when it's going to come back. So what have you noticed? Because you said you had things booked. Are you having to still cancel things on a rolling basis, or are you just booking far enough out to where you've got your fingers crossed?
Yeah, at the moment it's cancellations on a rolling basis. So I've got flights for July. So July is generally where we go to Europe, because I'm from Belgium originally. Mm-hmm. So I go home for the summer holidays, and that's all cancelled. I mean, I still need to cancel it. They're all points bookings, but yeah, that's all down the drain. Because at the moment there's no end in sight for Australian Traveller Special. We don't really have a set date. It's saying like 17th of September, but I feel that might be pushed out again, or depending if they have some sort of travel bubble opening up, which we'll see about. It seems like at the moment it's a lot of political point scoring and not real action on how travel might affect people's lives. So yeah.
So when we're talking about this period of, you mentioned that one of the good changes that's happened has been the cancellation policy flexibility, which we hope is something that hangs around, which, God knows it won't, but hopefully it hangs around for a good period of time as people need that confidence again. But airlines from around the world have been doing a number of pivots for their frequent flyer programs to entice people to still use frequent flyer programs to shop and gain points elsewhere. What have been some of the most valuable non-travel alternatives that you've seen for frequent flyer programs at the moment? Have you seen any really good pivots in the airline industry and the frequent flyer industry?
American Express actually launched a pretty compelling offer, and I think it's quite a few countries around the world. So from memory, it started in Europe, then sort of moved to India, Australia, and Canada, US, which are sort of the what we call the premium markets for these car providers. And in Australia, for example, they're offering a double points on your everyday spend, but then there's also a double cashback option for redeeming them. So you can actually redeem points for about a 4.5% cashback, which is pretty good in terms of frequent flyer points. So that means that you can actually use your points to turn them into cash and pay off your expenses from your card. If that makes sense. It's it's for someone that uses their points for flying and for hotel stays, it's kind of painful seeing that happen, but at least there is another option for people that want to take advantage of it.
Is there the worry as well that when flights resume normally, or some version of normal, that points aren't going to go as far as they used to when it comes to booking flights, that reward bookings may end up, becoming more substantially expensive along with tickets themselves? What is your feeling about how things are going in that respect?
I personally think it's going to take a few years before all this gets back to a pre-COVID state. And in that time period, airlines and hotels and anything in travel is going to, put out some incredible offers to entice people to get out there again. I don't think you will see too many, as we call it, points devaluations, is where the program puts up the prices, which is an ongoing process. Points don't increase in price, in value, they decrease over time. So we earn them and then we burn them. But I don't see too many huge devaluations in the foreseeable future, simply because at the moment there is no travel demand. So it would be kind of suicidal for an airline to go like, well, look, we're gonna ruin our own loyalty program for our loyal passengers who have been using our products, paying with our credit cards, flying with us for so many years. It would be kind of like a backstab. So I think what a lot of airlines are doing, we can see this with Qatar, they're just establishing themselves as kind of the apex predator in the airline industry, where they're flying everywhere.
They've barely stopped. Yeah.
They're now the biggest airline in the world. We've seen a very aggressive campaign where they trying to scoop up the top tier frequent flyers from other airlines such as Emirates, Velocity, and the like.
I missed that period where I heard about it too late, because I'm platinum with Velocity, and I'm going, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with that now. And I was hoping an airline would come that would kind of try and nab me, but I missed it.
So Qatar came in and just nabbed up all those premium customers, offering them
status
the highest tier of the One World Alliance. And with that comes, like free upgrades from economy to business, stuff like that. So it's a pretty compelling offer. They're one of my favorite airlines anyway. So it's good to see that at least someone took the initiative and go like, oh, look, this is kind of an opportunity for us to establish ourselves as the trusted brand in aviation, where everyone else is just laying off people and canceling flights left, right, and center. If they're going like, well, look, we're going to be reliable and fly to places where no one else is, and this is going to capture a huge market for us. So.
The fun of limitless money from Qatar.
Yeah, well, it's good if you're yeah, if you, it's good if you're a rich country with sort of unlimited supplies of money to, you know, I mean, it's gonna do a huge it's a huge marketing campaign for the country as well. If you think about it, they still have the FIFA World Cup coming up. Um,
Which should have gone to Australia, but anyway.
this is I mean, this is a huge promotional stunt as well, other than supporting the airline and aviation industry. So
Well, it's
it's all
funny
tied
because
together.
it sounds like such a great deal, but they're offering people a limited amount of time, right? What do you get? The benefits for a year or something like that? Well, no one's even going to travel for the next half year anyways. So like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a false offer in a way because they
Well,
don't have
yeah,
to
it
honor
depends.
anything.
Yeah, it depends how positive your outlook is for future travels. At the moment, it's looking pretty bleak, but they you can requalify for a fraction of the usual miles that it will usually take
Hmm.
for another year. So that would extend it for 2 years. But yeah, as you said, all these airlines extending their programs, it sounds great on paper, and you're like, oh my god, it's amazing, but we're still stuck at home.
I've got one question. So we're in a really weird once in a lifetime situation with the pandemic. As somebody who is constantly staying abreast with different hacks and opportunities, is there any once in a lifetime opportunities have happening in the travel hacking space that you think could only be captured with something like this happening?
Not, I don't think there's anything crazy right now. I mean, I have booked some flights during the whole lockdown because they were just too good. For example, we saw once again Qatar Airways doing something crazy, which was they had a they still have a promotion where if you book a flight, any flight, you can change the destination by up to 5,000 miles. So if
That's
you
crazy.
have grasped the concept of how far 5,000 miles is, it's actually pretty far. So
Yeah.
what I did and what many other people did was there is certain routes in the world that are always cheap in premium cabins. So for example, I booked Colombo, Sri Lanka to Muscat in business class with Qatar Airways for I think it was $750 Australian. So that's what 450 US. And because Muscat is within the 5,000 mile range from Europe, you can then change the ticket to Europe. So you're getting like a full return ticket, business class from Asia to Europe for $750, which is pretty
That's
amazing.
crazy.
And then the other added benefit is that you could change the date whenever you wanted to, or if you wanted to cancel it, they would give you a voucher.
So do they just assume that because you had to do all these extra steps in order to make that happen that most people wouldn't do it or something?
I'm not sure if the intention of them was that you would you could change it that far, but maybe it was. Maybe it was a very strategical thing that they were like, well, we're gonna get everyone talking about this, and it kind of did. So yeah, in the end of the day, it makes sense for them because a lot of these flights would be going empty-ish. Um, so why not give it to the people that actually seek out these deals and you know um, take advantage of the opportunities, which would be a small percentage anyway. It's not like the average public has got knowledge of this and knows how to do it. So it would be we'll be talking about thousands of people, not tens of thousands that are or hundreds of thousands that are booking these crazy deals. I booked another one. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's Air France La Première first class, which is one of those grail redemptions for us aviation geeks because you can't book it on points unless you are the top tier Air France freaking flyer. And paying cash, of course, is $10,000 for one way. So I got one for I think once again $700 or something. So we'll see if that happens. It depends if I can get out the country or not.
When's that
That's
for?
crazy.
I've been rebooking because they just canceled it. So I spent more time on this ticket. I think if I work at the time I spent working this ticket, I probably could have bought it outright with cash, depending on how much I
You could have
bill
worked
myself
minimum
per hour.
wage and paid for it yourself.
Yeah, I could
It'll
have.
it'll make a great story.
It's
And
content.
it's going to be great content for sure. And actually, that's one thing before we continue. I did want to just talk about your website a little bit. You know, how have you pivoted your own business through this period? You know, I see there's a lot of different content coming up now. You know, talk us through a little bit about your process of pivoting your business during this time.
Yeah. So for me, I was when it all happened, I was still working on the relaunch of my site. So I've done a whole, all not myself, but my team's done a whole rebrand, build it up from scratch, and I've been working on that, getting it live. Um, and so that's been my focus is just to improve my website, improve my user experience, and then work with other advertising partners other than credit card providers and airlines, etc., to offer a different, I guess, different promotions for that are current. For example, like Uber Eats, they've been great working with me. So, it's very relevant where people are staying at home, ordering in. So those kind of advertising partners, that's been my pivot where I'm just seeking out different opportunities with brands to work with.
Yeah, I guess a lot of these points programs are so diverse with what you can redeem these days that you probably have more content than it might seem, even if flights are shut down.
Yeah, I mean the news cycle keeps going, and it's pretty busy right now with all this news popping up about airlines going under, and this promotion, that promotion, this airline is extending their status. Like I don't think there's usually that much talk. But yeah, I think again, marketing teams must be kind of busy as well, trying to retain users and keep everyone engaged. So it's definitely providing content for people like me. It's just that I can't actually fly. So
So when it comes to that sort of confidence and looking at the Australia market, obviously you mentioned Virgin Australia before. What do you think is going to happen with Virgin and the Velocity program and with their partnerships with Singapore and Delta? As someone myself who's a Platinum Velocity flyer, and I'm already thinking about, how I can jump ship and move to another program. But should I be thinking that way? I mean, what's your feeling on that network and what's going to happen there?
yeah, so initially when leading up to the pandemic, I had a pretty good feeling that they were going to go under. And I warned my readers about it and said, look, if you have a lot of points, transfer them out now, because eventually they will lock down the. So for those that don't know, Velocity, you can transfer points to Singapore Airlines, which is a much bigger airline, much more stable. They've just huge cash injection from their state-run investment, program. So they're not going anywhere, whereas Velocity is pretty small, huge debts. And for those that had a lot of points there, the risk was that when the airline goes under, even though the Velocity program is a separate company, they're still tied together somehow. So that all got suspended, and a lot of people are now stuck with these huge balances. Initially, it looked pretty bad. So, what could have happened is that they were like, well, your points are now worth nothing, which is what happened in the past with other airlines, like Air Berlin, for example, had a few points in there. They went under, and I think I got 50 euros from them. I got a letter from the creditors in Germany saying that's the value I got from my miles. So they were all gone. And the fear was that something like that could happen with Velocity. Now I think the outlook is much more positive, where we have two big investment companies from the US. One of them, I think Sirius Capital, is tied together with Richard Branson and the Virgin brand. They're looking to buy the airline. There's another one, Bain Capital is looking to buy. And then now recently, the other day, the bondholders have come on board and said, look, we want to reinvest more money into the company pre-COVID and relist it, which is another crazy idea. So I don't know what's going to happen. Apparently, we're going to find out in the coming weeks who is actually buying it, or if the company gets relisted. That would mean that everything kind of goes back to normal-ish. I think if it gets bought out, they've already said the point's going to be safe. Flights will be honored. There will be, I guess, no one will be losing a huge amount of value in the short term. So we will be able to use our points for flights again. I'm not sure if they will open up the portal to transfer to Singapore Airlines right away, because just a preventative measure to stop people from panicking. It's like the supermarkets preventing how much toilet paper you can buy, because people, if they don't have a limit, they just buy it all. So for those that didn't transfer out, if they open it up again, no doubt everyone will just flood out, and that will cost them a lot of money because they have to pay for these miles as well. So I think short term, it's looking pretty positive. Whereas when Virgin gets bought out with Velocity as well, they're going to do a lot of work to try to retain their user base and make sure that they're going to get value out of the program, because that's a really essential part of the airline, is to convince people that, look, we are credible, we are going to look after you and make sure those tickets are honored. So I think in the long term it will all be fine. So yeah.
Well, that's good news. And I think just in general, what are your predictions of how airlines will change and how frequent flyer programs will change, at least in the short term, the next couple of years?
Yeah, they're going to have to work on, we've seen the extensions, which is fine. But then if this whole travel situation continues into next year, there are rumors that, Qantas just announced this morning they won't see international travel going back until July next year, which is, in my mind, just wild, but who knows what happens. So
that's crazy. That
seems
nuts.
A little crazy, especially being that they're not based in a country like the U.S., where we have major airlines doing a lot of flights, and we're in worse shape.
Part of the problem, probably.
It is part of the problem, but it's still just crazy that.
Yeah, and in Australia, we it depends on how you look at it. We've either got it really good or we got it really bad. So in terms of health, we've got it really good because there's hardly any spread. So WA, there's like pretty much zero spread in the community. So we can do as we do before, but we're in our own little island state, closed off from the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. You're closed off from the rest of Australia.
But that as well, I can't even leave the state. So in our own little bubble, it's all happy days. But if you look at the wider picture, you can't just isolate yourself from the world forever, because that's what it would take. This virus isn't going to go away magically. So yeah, I think they have to find a middle ground and let people take responsibility for themselves and their health, instead of trying to protect everyone. That's
very Swedish of you.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm European, so
yeah, right. Not too far off.
Well, it looks like they're having a pretty amazing summer. I've had some friends in Sweden, and they're out and about.
Yeah,
enjoying
midsummer just hit.
So,
yeah. Oh man. Well, it's really interesting to hear your insights. It doesn't sound quite as bleak when you put it certain ways, and there's I'm glad that you've had a lot of content to fall back onto, and there's a lot of things to look forward to with some of these crazy deals and booking flights and stuff. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Emmanuel. I really appreciate that. I just want to let all the listeners know, again, you can go to flighthacks.com.au. For all our non-Australian listeners, there are deals and error fares on there that will probably apply internationally, as you've heard, like with some of these Qantas deals. So definitely go check it out regardless of where you're from. And yeah, take advantage of those points. Maybe get that once in a lifetime Air France first class cabin, albeit maybe not as many hours as Emmanuel's putting in. But thanks for coming on and chatting with us, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
That's good. Thank you.
All right, Andrew. Well, that's it for this season of Jetlag. There was so much to take away from that last chat, just about how resilient the airlines are and how resilient the travel industry is. And even an airline like Virgin Australia that we thought was done and dusted are very much still in for the count. So that's got to leave us with something of a positive message to end on.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything we talked about in this season, right, which had a lot of breadth and depth, nobody was down and out, really. I think there were varying degrees of pivoting happening. Some people had to go on pause, and there wasn't really much of a pivot to be had. They're just kind of waiting, which is hard. And I think we heard that from, like when we talked with LPX, and she's just like, I'm a creative. I play shows, and now I can't play shows. So her pivot was personal. But we've had other people, we're talking to, were like, that company you mentioned that was building stages and doing live shows. They're like, okay, now we're going to make standing desks. It's like, you can't have more of a pivot than that. But either way, whether internal or external, it seems like everybody's getting along in its own way. And that's kind of what the broader scope of humanity really is. It's always just getting on with it because we have to, right?
That we do. I think after this conversation, I'm going to go out and look for some $750 first class flights.
That's crazy. It's so crazy. And I really want to get back on the airfare game too, because honestly, I think the best trip I ever have taken in my life was an airfare. And I remember I was doing a gig in Sydney. I'm walking on the harbor, Opera House on my left, museum on the right, and I'm trying to buy a flight while doing a social media job, but it's because it was $200 to go from New York City to Milan, then Prague to Tokyo. $200. And I was like, no way. So I booked it. It kept, and Rachel and I left for 35 days or 40 days straight and went all through Europe and Japan and Korea.
Wow.
And we took the long way back to Australia. And I'll never forget that, so if I can get a deal now and book it, even though I don't know what's going to be happening by then, it's certainly worth a shot. I can recommend that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note too, not just travel, but I mentioned I've got that tickets to that show in Alabama that was supposed to be in September. Well, it got moved to May, and I have until the end of this month, which is like a week, if I want a refund. But you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm gonna go to the show. I don't know what the hell I'm doing in May, but I want to go. So.
And I think something that we haven't touched on this season, and a note maybe that I'll end it on, is this is a time for us to all look into domestic travel and opportunities within our own states and provinces and territories that maybe we hadn't considered before. We are creatures of travel. We want to get out there. We want to do things. And I think over the next few months in particular, we are going to have opportunities to really explore our own backyards in ways that we've never done before. You're going to see a lot of campaigns around the world pushing locals to travel because external visitors can't come in. And I think anything that we can do to support our local travel industry by being tourists in our own cities and in our own regions, I think that's something we all have to keep in mind, and a real opportunity for us to see our own cities in a different light. Travel doesn't have to be getting on a plane and going to Milan. It can be getting in a car or a bus and going an hour down the road. And there's a lot less jet lag with that if we're going to bring the title of the series into it. But there's still a lot of adventure to be had, no matter where you are in the world.
Indeed, man. Well, we did it. It's cool to have this on record and remember a time where, without a doubt, anybody who went through it is going to look back at 2020 and just go, what the happened? You know? So now we've got it. And I'm really curious to see how we look back at each one of these facets of what we talked about in the future and see how right or wrong we were, but more importantly, just to remember how we felt when things were shaken up.
Yeah, it is a strange thing to be sitting in one spot for an extended period of time for me, as I'm sure it is for you. But I have a little inkling that I will look back on this period fondly, because I really got to experience life in a different way, and that's come with a lot of tragedy, and that's come with a lot of incredible experiences. It's come with, I mean, obviously incredible turmoil in the world. So I realized the privilege in my, in my tone in looking at this period like that, and hopefully, things don't progress off the deep end, and which of course is still a distinct possibility.
I was convinced that by the end of this, that maybe our content would be outdated, because we were doing this at like once a week or maybe twice a week, and I thought, man, in that period of time, this thing might be over, and it's actually not. As
America today recorded their highest level of new coronavirus transmissions since recording started.
Yeah. All I know is that when season 3 discussions happen at all, I want all of this to not exist. And I'm thinking that's going to happen. I think that'll be the case. So
it's hard to know. I mean, it's anyone's guess. And if we've learned anything in this season, is indeed that what happens next is anyone's guess. And I think on that note, we should call it a season.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Thank you to everybody for listening and going on this journey with us and diving into the details of the different parts of people's lives that have been affected by this, and the immobility that it has put upon us, but also the inner mobility that it's forced us to go and get after. So thank you for all being here with us. Thank you for checking this out. It's been a pleasure. It's been a blast once again, Larry. And yeah, let's see what happens.
We'll see you next season, whenever that is and whatever it looks like.
And I hope it's more on the road. So see you in the skies. See you on the roads.
I think let's put it out there. The next season, every episode we're recording in a different place.
Yeah, just to get back at this one.
Let's put it out in the world. Let's do that. Lisa's invited us both to Memphis, so we know we've got that.
Yeah, and that's high on my list. That'd be a repeat trip for you, but a first. Anyways, thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Great rest of your pandemic. And onwards and upwards to all of you.